Pete Calandra here. Today's video is the fifth in a series documenting my current film scoring project. This is a 60-minute television documentary, and as in the previous episodes of this series, I'm not at liberty right now to play the video or the voiceover, but I can certainly give you a good idea as to what's going on emotionally and psychologically in the story and how the music fits in and works with that. While making today's video, two topics stood out. The first being how I've taken material presented very early in the film and now in the middle of the third act, which is what we're talking about today, how I've developed and transformed that material so that it now fits in with what's going on at this point in the timeline. The second thing is some detailed work showing you some of the inner workings of the rhythmic beds I've created. There's some stuff in 4/4, but most of the things that I'm talking about here are with complex time signatures. So 7/8, 5/4, superimposing 3 in the time of 4, things of that nature. And what kinds of things you can do that aren't typical. So in other words, standard breaking up of a measure of 7 would be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. Well, what happens if you've got that pattern, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, going on in some instruments, and then in other instruments you've got 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and then how they combine together and how they create really complex polyrhythms within a time signature. So there's a lot of detailed work in that. I hope these topics are of interest for you. So if you like this video, give a thumbs up. For more content, please subscribe, and to be notified, ring that bell. Please leave any comments or questions below. Anyway, thanks again so much for watching, and let's get right into it. Let's take a listen to the beginning of this cue. Okay, this is a variation on a couple of things that have come earlier in the film. There's the opening where there's a descending piano figure that goes from C, B flat, A flat, and G. There's hints of this in there, and then later on there's an action theme that's in G major, and I went over this in previous episodes of this series. This is a minorish version of that. So let's take a look at what's actually happening with the music. We've got these aperture spiccato strings from Spitfire. And that's got elements of the open piano figure taken from the teaser in the first episode of the series, C, B flat, A flat, G. And it also has the pulse from the action/motivation section of that same cue. I've transformed it all into minor right now. Right, there's this descending figure, D. And then you've got this offbeat 16th note pulse. Against that, I've got something that I like to do. This is a semi-tumbayo that's from Afro-Cuban music, and I like to mix different styles together. So it acts almost like a bass line, even though it's an octave higher than a bass line would be. Gives you a really nice interplay with the aperture spiccato. The two of those together are really nice. And then on top of that, I've got this muted piano also playing beep, boom, 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 beep. And if you add that with the harmonics. With the acoustic piano, I've got this low droning bass note. Now, One point I want to make here is that I've only got 4 tracks playing right now, and this is very full. That's a good skill to work on, filling out your track and making it sound nice and powerful with the least amount of instruments possible. And then here at measure 5, I'm in 4/4, but what I'm doing is I'm superimposing something in 3 over that. So we've got these 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then we're into a repeat of the beginning in a different key. Let's take it from measure 3 into the next section. So we've got the spiccato strings. We do not have the harmonics anymore. We've got neo pizzicato. And we've got Albion strings and aperture collegno. So let's solo it right from measure 5 and we can hear that. Let's get them all different colors so we can see the. There we go. I tie this together because I've got this. Which is that opening piano figure, a variation on that in a different key. At this point, it's that opening figure from this cue. It's up a half step. I've got in the high winds, which is from Ambient by Spitfire. And I'm using the orchestrated one because I wanted it to not sound in unison. And I've got these short oohs. I believe it's this one here, which is from the Eric Whitacre. Muted piano here also. Basically doing the same thing as the first time through, and then the piano bass notes change. They're more rhythmic now. And then the montuno comes back, the tumbaio, excuse me, comes back in. And then there's this added. These right, these strings are double. This right here. Let's see. These are doubling with the woodwinds. And it's the Albion strings. They're a different timbre than the aperture strings. And then what else? So they got these aperture spiccatos, these lower ones. Right, that's doubling the rhythm of the piano. Dum, 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 dum. So the net effect of this is that by changing the key, it's not really a modulation. I'm just going up a half step, changing the orchestration, widening things out, adding a little bit more rhythm. I'm building up the tension slowly. I have to be careful because there's a lot of people talking as this is a documentary. So you have to always worry and make sure that your music fits in with the dialogue. So let's listen to that whole bit from the beginning. Coming in at the next bit, tense, uneasy, and curious was the direction I got. So I'm using the output Novo strings here to get a really ethereal feel. And on top of that, I have the muted piano and a regular acoustic piano doubling each other. And then a patch from Omnisphere, which is a very ambient patch called Distant Memories, filling out the low end. And then you blend that in with the Novo strings. Right? They're very animated sounds, even though there's just one note. There's other things happening, and it really sets up a nice atmosphere. And I play this haunting, what I call a haunting piano figure above it. Right? It's a little uneasy and curious. So I've repeated that piano figure. And then I've jumped that up a minor third and changed the orchestration. So I'm using the LCO textures from Spitfire there to change the ethereal background when I've changed the chord there. There we go. So if we just listen to the Novo, the Distant Memories. So this is one kind of ambient background texture. So instead of just taking the first ambient texture and then transposing that up a minor third to go along with the piano, I changed the ambient texture, right? Variation in orchestration. Then back to the original chord. And now we're going to start off with a little rhythmic section here. Let's take a look at the MIDI information there. So we've got neo pits, that's down here. And we've got Colegno. I use Colegno a lot in this score. It's really cool. And then the upright bass. And there's also the Celtic voice from Vocalese by Output, giving me that soloist, and I've panned it back and forth. Each phrase is on one side of the stereo field and the next one is on the other side, just to give it some interest. Also, to keep it out of the way of the dialogue, which is in the middle of the stereo field. Let's listen to the pizzicato, the neo pizzicato, and let's listen to the short female vocals. Right, so those two sound good together. Now, if I get rid of the female voice and I bring in the Colegno and just play the pizzicato and the Colegno strings, they sound good together. So you see all the subsections of my instrumental groups sound good together. And that's also another really good principle of sound orchestration. Nice long notes in the bass. Having those live vocal phrases adds so much energy and emotion to a MIDI track. They're really good to spray in there. So this is a little transition, this 3/4 measure. And then there's a hard cut in the picture to action. And the music also cuts really hard right there. I've brought the 7/16 or the 7/8 figure back from earlier in the piece, and I've done a variation on that. So the 7 is broken up in the lower part of the strings into 3, 2, and 2. So that would be the ensemble chamber strings, right? And then we've got the Ambient strings. Adding some nice accents there. Let's add our xylophone into the mix. Okay, so that's interesting to me. So the xylophone is going 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3, and the other instruments are going 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2. So you get these kind of cross rhythms. Let's lose this and just solo these two. I like that. We've got this marimba. Let's see what the marimbas are doing. Right, so it's 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3. So combining different ways of breaking the 7 together, they fit like a glove and they add rhythmic interest. It's a cool technique. Bringing in an Evo right here, choir, just to add some tension. Again, jumping up a half step and changing the orchestration. It gets a little bit more intense. I've got these ethnic drums. Those are from Heavyocity, and modern drum from Easy Drummer. Toontrack. Right, it's cool. This is, again, we're still in 7/8 here. So it's a 4-bar phrase, right? It goes from here to here. Right? And one cool thing is that the piano doesn't come in on a downbeat. It comes in sort of in the middle of the measure, and it doesn't, the first time through, it doesn't land on the downbeat. And that also helps to give a circular feel to the rhythm here. And now the second time through, I vary it, and it does end up on the downbeat. And then here we're still in 7, and the feel changes, right? So I didn't want to do too much of the same thing. I wanted to keep 7 in there. I wanted to keep the tension and the rhythm going. So let's see what we've got. And then we have drum, ethnic drum, and modern drum. Oh, and there's some harmonics in there. Where are the harmonics? Let's see what they're doing. Right here. So I'm just hitting that one note on the harmonics, but the rhythmic echoes are adding animation to that. It's a nice syncopation. And then we've got, Symphonic Motion Strings by Spitfire. So I'm just basically playing one note there. Let's see, oops, the wrong one. Okay, so I'm playing 2 notes there. The second time through. Okay, I got it. Should know my own music. And it's right? It's playing rhythm. And I've got dee-da, right? I bring this line in over and over again in various ways throughout the entire piece. And then against all of that, I'm using these really edgy London Celli by Spitfire to give me a nice ascending line. So let's listen to this section here. want to do something with pay attention to the drums here because it's really kind of cool. So I've got the ethnic drums giving me big hits. Right, bum, dit-dum, dit-dum, dum, dum, dum. Right, it's a longer phrase that plays in there. Tick-gum, tick-gum, dum, bum, bum, bum. Those accents like that. It's just a longer phrase. Instead of going bum, dit-dum, bum, dit-dum. I'm thinking of it like dum, dit-dum, dit-dum, dum, dum. Thinking it in a longer phrase, and the first two are answered by the third. Bum, dit-dum, dit-dum, dum, dum. Let's take a listen to that in context with everything else. Oh yes, this cello is being doubled by the low brass. And then now a hard change to a new section because there's competition going on. It's faster, so Pumoso, and we're back in 4/4. We've got this piano section here. Right, suspended chords. Again, influence of Afro-Cuban music on my writing. I try to put it in through my own lens of creativity where it's influencing my music, but my music doesn't sound Afro-Cuban at all. But I can still use some of the concepts that's found in that music in this hybrid orchestral music here. And it works really well. So against that, we've got this wind figure. That's kind of cool. And that's doubled with the spiccato strings. Right. Oh, it's harmonized with the spiccato strings. I do something that foreshadows what's going to happen in the next section before that section comes in, right here. That ascending scale leads us into the Pumoso at 52. And then I've got fragments of that scale. And the second time through, I add one more note. And then the last time through, I go all the way up and leading us into yet another figure. So leading into phrases, leading into downbeats when you're changing sections. Another thing I want to look at in this section here, which I didn't go over, would be the piano, marimba, and xylophone. And let's get rid of high winds. So let's listen to how all these fit together. So we'll just solo out these guys here. Right, so they're doubling the rhythm sometimes of the piano, and sometimes they're playing complementary rhythms, and the aggregate whole of the entire three of those instruments gives you a nice rhythmic vitality and a good drive. Oh, and another thing I'd like to mention is this really cool note on Hauschka in the bass of the piano. Right, you get really that buzz on the string. It's really great. And notice that doesn't come in on the downbeat. Comes in on beat 2. 1, 2, 4. And then the electric bass comes in on the bar 3. So you see how I'm even layering stuff in here. Nope, that's upright bass. Okay, great. I'm going to just play this. Right? You can hear how that's a variation on. Right? It's a variation on that very first part of the previous cue. And why is that? Because I lead you back into the reiteration of that original bit. Reorchestrated a little bit. More drive. Okay, and then we get to this section here, which is really kind of ambient, and we've got this symphonic motion strings here. And what I've done is I've had them all come in on a different part of the beat so that they're not playing. It's set, I believe it's set to eighth notes. Oh no, it's set to random. Okay, so depending upon the pitch, it's playing a different rhythm, and each one of those notes starts on a different part of beat 1 of this section. And then there are some accents with these coleños, and they're really percussive. Really quick picture changes in this area, and that's doubled with the ethnic drums. Right, and the picture changes on the second one of those drum hits, so I'm leading into the picture change, which is really cool. For the ethereal part of this, I've got this glockenspiel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, right, playing those 16th notes very soft. And then this patch in Omnisphere, Distant Memories, which I've used quite a bit. And then at the end of that, this Celtic voice right here, doing a solo, I believe. All right, so now we're in a new section here, and in an odd time signature again, 5/4. So I've got these McCoy-Tyner-ish fourth chords here, G, C, and F. And then there's an F on this pizzicato, just playing straight eighth notes. This is 5/8. And then there's syncopation in the fourth chords. So the phrase actually comes in over 2 measures, I believe. Let me see. Or is it 3 measures? Oh, over 4 measures. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's pretty cool. And then there's some hi-hats and drum hits in there. The kick drum on. So the kick drum there is playing on a different beat of the measure. And it sort of almost feels, if you're just randomly listening, like the kick drum is coming in on 2 and 4. Even though the strings are in 5/4. So that's another cool technique. All right, right, so we're building and building, trying to lead to this point right here with this spacey section. Again, the key change here, so we've got this groove going here. Bum chicka dida bum bum ba dum bum bum. So this Colinos are playing dun chicka dida dun chunka dum bum. Bum 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 ba bum bum ba dum bum. And is there anything in the spiccato? Let's see. There's Midi Information there. Here we go. Ba-do-do-do. And then that figure leads us into this next bit. And then that is that that's spread out between high winds. And then some brass. The drums hit right at the end of it. And then there's the strings on top of it. So I've got this Glock going here. I'm playing it out of time. I just want a wash of sound there, right? And then what I did, which was kind of cool, was with this Celtic voice I just played a big chord. And it created this really cool All right, so that's a look at parts of Act 3. I'm done with Act 3. I have to go back and do some revisions in 3 small sections, which will take me a morning to do. And onward with Act 4. Things are a little crazy right now because I've got a second project that I'll talk about in a couple of weeks that I'm also doing at the same time, trying to still knock this documentary out and try to make videos for you guys occasionally. I've been Pete Calandra. If you like this video, give a thumbs up. For more content, please subscribe, and to be notified, ring that bell. Please leave any comments or questions below. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.